Paula.
Does he think his supporters should not take the flag to Trump rallies? Has he considered banning the Confederate flag from Trump
Well,
rallies?
at Trump rallies, all flags that are not official campaign gear are banned. Yes.
Kayleigh, why is it Bubba Wallace's responsibility to apologize for an investigation into a noose that he didn't report and he never even saw? It was NASCAR that found this, that reported this, and even the FBI referred to it as a noose, even if they said it wasn't a specific crime against Mr. Wallace. Why is the president even suggesting that Mr. Wallace should apologize?
Well, look, the FBI, as I noted, concluded that this was not a hate crime, and he believes it'd go a long way if Bubba came out and acknowledged that as well. This was not a hate crime as noted by the
He's been very
FBI.
clear that the FBI found this was not intentional. Why is he directing this at Mr. Wallace?
So one of the things this is where the president comes from, and this is where the president stands. And he actually hinted at this in his July 4th speech. To those in the media who falsely and consistently label their opponents as racist, who condemn patriotic citizens, who offer a clear and truthful defense of American unity, we want a clear and faithful defense of American history and unity. And when you level false charges, you not only slander me, you slander the American people. He believes the American people are good. And the allegations and the rush to judgment with Jesse Smollett in the Bubba Wallace case and with the Covington Catholic boys, we shouldn't be so quick to jump onto those narratives. Those are just three examples of those that have been proven false.
An investigation that someone else initiated, suggesting he was possibly the victim of a hate crime?
Yes.
The governor of South Dakota flew back on Air Force One after having contact with somebody who had tested positive for the virus. Why was that allowed to happen? Did she have contact with the president on the trip back? And has the president continued to test negative since that interaction?
Yes, the president is tested constantly, has tested negative, and those around him are tested as well.
But why, the original question is, why was she allowed to fly back on Air Force One with the president when it was known that she had had contact with somebody who had tested positive for the virus?
Yeah, I'd have to refer you to Secret Service on that, but I'll tell you this, they take the president's health very seriously. They would never put him in a situation that would put him in harm's way.
And just one follow-up, please.
Yes.
On executive orders, the president has set a pretty brisk pace on those this year, and as a candidate, he had been critical of President Obama's use of executive orders, but he seems to have really stepped up the pace on these. And I wanted to ask, what does he find? What is the strategy behind issuing more than one a week so far this year? And I know he's getting ready to issue more in the coming weeks.
Well, he will use the powers in his executive toolkit to further the agenda of the American people. That's his intent with these executive orders. And I would just note that with regard to the DACA decision, the Supreme Court has suggested he has pretty wide discretion to act. Yes, Jeff.
Kayleigh, with regard to the president's reference about the 99% being harmless, does the president worry at all that by downplaying the severity of the virus, that it will lead Americans to be less careful?
The president isn't downplaying the severity of the virus. What the president's noting is that at the height of this pandemic, we were at 2,500 deaths per day. We are now at a place where on July 4th, there were 254. That's a tenfold decrease in mortality. On July 5th, 209 individuals, down 23% from last Sunday and the lowest Sunday since March 28th. The president's made clear we grieve when just one life is lost, but he wants to note the progress that we've made in treating this very serious virus when we have therapeutics like convalescent plasma, remdesivir, dexamethasone. Convalescent plasma in particular was spearheaded by this administration. He's pulled down bureaucracy and allowed us to get to a place where we can have this declining mortality rate.
Just to follow up on the NASCAR thing, you were saying that we're taking the tweet out of context, but this is what he tweeted. He says, has Bubba Wallace apologized to all those great NASCAR drivers and officials who came to his aid, stood by his side, and were willing to sacrifice everything for him, only to find out that the whole thing was just another hoax. That and flag decision has caused lowest ratings ever. How are we misinterpreting that?
I've explained to you, this is I guess, the fourth attempt, but we'll try it again. In aggregate, what he was pointing out is this rush to judgment to immediately say that there is a hate crime, as happened in this case, as happened with Jussie Smollett, as happened with the Covington Catholic boys. And in aggregate, those actions made it seem like NASCAR men and women were racist individuals who were roving around and engaging in a hate crime. The president's intent was to say, no, most American people are good, hardworking people. I mean, we should not have this rush to judgment, knee-jerk reaction before the facts come out. The FBI did their job and determined there was no hate crime. Mario.
Hold on. Just the one thing that wasn't clear in your response, and that's why I asked about it again, and it follows up on Paula's question, is why should Mr. Wallace have to apologize for that when his whole team and all of these colleagues came around him to show support?
Yeah, and that's the best of America, is coming around when the media alleged a hate crime, coming around and supporting Bubba Wallace as they should have done. I think that shows how loving NASCAR fans are and the fellow drivers. But I think it's important that we point out the fact that there was no hate crime. The FBI concluded that, and President Trump was merely saying that Mr. Wallace should agree with that consensus. Yes, Mario.
Apologize. He's saying
Mario,
he has to
yes.
apologize. That's what we're trying to ask you, Kayleigh, is why should he
Mario,
have to apologize
yes.
about that?
I'm not going to answer a question a sixth time.
You
Mario.
haven't answered it. You've been asked it, but you haven't answered it.
Mario, go ahead.
Kayleigh, on the Confederate part, why would the president not praise NASCAR for removing the Confederate flag, particularly given the history of that flag, the symbol that it has for African Americans, and also what it represents in terms of just the treasonous acts and the insurrection against the Republic?
So
Why would he not praise them for taking that down, even if it's a ratings
the
hit?
president takes great offense when Americans are knee-jerk reaction summed up as racist. And in aggregate, the picture being painted here in this incident seemed to be that there was that suggestion there, when in fact what we're seeing across the nation is this vast cancel culture where we're going to tear down our monuments, we're going to tear down Gandhi, we're going to tear down George Washington, we're going to tear down Lincoln. It's really quite appalling what we've seen happen across the country, and the president wants no part in cancel culture. He wants no part in the tearing down and defacing of Matthias Baldwin, an abolitionist, Philadelphia's Civil War soldiers, John Greenleaf Whittier, vandalized, an abolitionist. He wants no part in this. He stands against the demonization of Americans, and he stands firmly on the side of preserving our history. Yes.
The flag is a different issue.
He's not, I said from the very top of this briefing, he has not given an opinion one way or the other on that. I just spoke to him this morning. Yes.
What exactly does the president see as positive or uniting then about the Confederate flag? Why did he decide to tweet about it then this morning?
The president never used those words. Those are the words of a reporter, not that of the president of the United States. Yes, Phil.
The president argued on Friday